half of the world or more has capital controls, right? If you look at that blue dollar rate, what you'll find is that the official rate is 130 or 140, and the actual rate, yeah, there we go. The official rate is 170. The unofficial rate is 317. It means the government and the banks steal half of your money every time you change it. Yeah. Okay. And so this is offensive to the Bitcoiners. And our view is it's offensive that they steal half of your money every 36 months. And it's offensive they steal half your money every time you change it. And it's also offensive that MasterCard and Visa take 2.5% of your money every time you move a transaction from left to right, which means that if you do 40 transactions a year, you've lost all your money.
Hey guys, welcome back to Library of Wealth. Today we have Michael Saylor on the future of Bitcoin and the issues in the crypto industry today. Saylor believes that there is a government monopoly to control all currency, so whether it's collectibles or Bitcoin, property is your long-term store of value. The problem with currency in the long run is that even the strongest coin will lose 99.9% of its value over the next 100 years. Money all over the world is losing up to 40% of its value now, and the only reason there is no panic in the US is because the CPI is being manipulated to create the lowest possible inflation number. Let's get right into the interview with Michael Saylor, who will give us his take on the current state of the Bitcoin market. If you enjoy the content we do here, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into the video.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the passion for Bitcoin starts from the premise that the money in the world is broken, that the fiat system is a distortion of reality, which is cruel and brutal to the working class, the middle class, and anyone who is not politically wired to take advantage of the system. So I would also make the observation that, most of the statistics from the government, that purport to measure the GDP or the inflation rate or the unemployment rate, they're warped. And so a lot of economics today is all revolving around getting you to accept a warped metric and then continuing to warp it such you come to the wrong conclusion.
Right.
And this graph is a classic example. This is the official, Federal Reserve published graph showing the debasement of the dollar over 100 years. And if you took it at face value, what it says is that 26 bucks is worth $1 today, and you lost 96% of your purchasing power. And if you look at the fine print, it says, versus CPI.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is a working class model of inflation. If you're measuring a market basket of highly manufactured products like boxes of potato chips or, Netflix streaming videos, things that, come out of factories, then you're not going to see the same inflation. The implication of that graph is that inflation was 3% for 100 years. But by the way, the official target is 2%. The implication of the graph is 3%. But I'll give you another number, which is in 1933, gold was $20 an ounce. And in the year 2020, gold was $2,000 an ounce. And you don't got to be a rocket scientist to figure out that's 100x increase, which meant that the money supply or the US dollar lost 99% of its value against a precious metal, the king precious metal. But that's not the right number either, because I'm sitting in a house right now, and the deed for the house, the transfer of the house was $100,000 in 1930. And the house had somewhere in the range of $10,000 to $20,000 worth of land under it. So the price of land in Miami Beach, let's just be generous and say it was $20,000 an acre in 1930. It's easily $10 million an acre today.
Right.
That's 500x. Okay, that means you lost 99.8% of the value of the dollar in 100 years, and in 92 years. Right. And that implies 7% inflation a year. So gold bugs see 5%. If you want to own a nice beach house in Palm Beach, it's 7%. If you just want to live in your parents' basement and eat boxed cereal, right? And you want to live with the CPI things, if you want nothing nice, then 3%, but the government touched 2%. So what's this got to do with Bitcoin? Well, There's another chart or another one I gave you, which is even more blood curdling, which is I remember the Argentine peso being 1 peso to the dollar 22 years ago. Right now, the blue dollar rate is about 320 pesos to the dollar. You work through the math, and what you find out is that the inflation rate, the inflation rate of the peso versus the dollar is about 21 to 24% per year, 20 years running. Okay, which means that whereas in the US, we've been cutting the value of your money in half every decade. In Argentina, they're cutting the value of the money in half or the currency in half every 3 to 4 years. Now you want the blood curdling statistic, right? Which is that's a 24% loss per year against the dollar, and the dollar is 7% against scarce assets. So that means you're losing 31% of your purchasing power a year. If you buy into fiat currencies, if you're unlucky enough to be one of 4 billion people in a weak currency environment like Venezuela or Argentina, you're pretty much getting destroyed every 36 months. And if you're lucky enough to be in the US, you're just getting destroyed every 10 years.
Saylor says that one of the ways they tackle inflation is to raise interest rates, but that the actual inflation rate that they won't tell you is 2 to 3 times the reported number. There are a number of factors in addition to the money printing that's causing the spike to happen and why currencies are collapsing in value.
And so that leaves us with the question of, well, what's the solution? Okay, and George, to be clear, I agree that this is a probabilistic assessment when you live in the US and you have to choose between gold, S&P indexes, real estate in Florida, and other derivatives and other contracts and Apple stock. It's a probabilistic thing, and you got to have a portfolio of you. But the interest rate in Argentina right now is 49% overnight. And the official inflation rate is probably 60, and the unofficial inflation rate is 80. And so you have a different view toward probabilistic risk when the ship is sinking and you're about to lose everything in 36 months. So I would say with regard to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is an interesting, nice to have, and an intellectual discussion for people in Western Europe and the US and the developed world with a strong currency losing 7% of its value a year. But Bitcoin represents a life raft to the billions of people in Sri Lanka and Lebanon and Turkey and Argentina and Venezuela, not to mention the ones in Cuba and North Korea that have zero property rights. And of course, half of the world or more has capital controls, right? If you look at that blue dollar rate, what you'll find is that the official rate is 130 or 140. And the actual rate, yeah, there we go. The official rate is 170. The unofficial rate is 317. It means the government and the bank steal half of your money every time you change it. And so this is offensive to the Bitcoiners. And our view is it's offensive that they steal half of your money every 36 months. And it's offensive they steal half your money every time you change it. And it's also offensive that MasterCard and Visa take 2.5% of your money every time you move a transaction from left to right, which means that if you do 40 transactions a year, you've lost all your money. So the credit system and the banking system is onerous and expensive and inefficient. And the monetary system and the fiat currencies are confiscatory, and they're brutally unfair. And if you want to have money, you can't depend upon the currencies. So if you're lucky and you're wealthy, maybe you can buy buildings and start Standard Oil, and you can invest in big tech. But what about the taxi cab driver in Nigeria? What about the 4 billion people that are, that are unbanked? And what about the other 3 billion that don't happen to be in the top billion elite? What about them?
One of the strategies Saylor suggests is, if you're in an inflationary environment, to convert weak property into strong property. But it's not as easy as moving out of the country. Those countries could just as well devalue that currency and you'll take a significant loss. That's why Saylor says that Bitcoin is the greatest asset in human history because of the value it holds. His long-held belief is that Bitcoin is a better investment than fiat currency, and his company MicroStrategy has made Bitcoin its primary asset in its treasury reserve position. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on this. Comment down below on what you think of Michael Saylor's Bitcoin position. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.